Go with the flow number 10. My name is Florence Sophia. I am your host today. And I am so excited to welcome Cindy Holbrook today to talk about Game On, how to win everything in life. So Cindy, let me introduce yourself and I'll read your bio and then I'll let you share your amazing story.
Okay.
So Cindy is truly a Wonder Woman, and I mean that from the bottom of my heart. She's running a household of 3 children from a small town in Michigan. On top of being a busy single mom, she's a successful cosmetologist for 23 years. She specializes in hair extensions because transformation is something she's passionate about. And I think everybody that is listening here is as well. However, fitness is her twin passion. She began working out to Taobo to lose weight when her son was 1, and then ended up getting certified by Billy Blanks to teach. After a few years of teaching as a certified Taobo instructor, her life took a spin with a number of breakdowns from divorce, depression, isolation to healing. Cindy, walk us through your journey.
Okay. Well, thank you for that introduction. That's a great setup. When I was 19, I met my first husband, and he was 12 years older than I was. And I later learned in life that I married a much older man that was controlling and emotionally abusive, also emotionally unavailable. And as time went on, we were together for 10 years. And towards the end of our marriage was when I had gotten into teaching Taibo. Mm-hmm. I went out to California and got certified, and I was about 28 years old at the time. And it really opened my eyes to who I started to become. I started to have like an awakening of who I was or wanted to be. And then he did not like that. And so he chose out. It really like pulled the rug right out from underneath me. And then I went from, I was in a cycle of trying to fill the void. The rejection really consumed me. And so I was trying to replace the loss. So I jumped from relationship to relationship to relationship. And as it turned out, as I had a tendency to attract fixer-uppers. And so I later ended up learning that I attracted what I was. And so, and I was a hot mess. And I met my second husband about 6.5 years after I had been divorced the first time. And within 3 months of the relationship, he was verbally abusive, and he would do some threatening type body movements, you know, shoulder check me or chest bump me or whatever. And we began a cycle of this toxicity that really pulled me under. So we got married in August of 2014, and I found out I was pregnant with my youngest daughter in November of that year, and she was born July 27th, 2015. And so in the course of that pregnancy, that's where our first year of marriage took place. And there were so many breakdowns after breakdown, and I really began to see what was going on. But I told myself these stories that I had to stay. My upbringing was very strict Christian home, and here I was already remarried, and I had guilted and shamed myself for that. And so I committed to staying. There was affairs, you know, there was arrests, and there was all of these things that in the back of my mind, I kept telling myself, go, just go, save yourself, save your kids, and go. And I would convince me to stay because I would replay the story of, what are people going to think? I'm already married and divorced. I've brought a third child into this wreckage. And so I guilted myself into staying. And in the meantime, Taibo kind of went to the wayside. I would always try to get back to teaching Taibo because fitness is my twin passion. And there was a moment where I did go get certified again, and he was very supportive. And it just didn't last. I couldn't juggle the kids and the marriage, and I just emotionally couldn't handle giving of myself in that way to my students. And so as I continue to seek the fitness path, because that is what really does keep me alive. And I got together with a girlfriend of mine, and we started doing CrossFit, and she had a CrossFit gym in her barn. So I would take my 1-year-old at the time into this gym in her barn and let her play while we worked out. And I began to change. I began to see myself, in a different way. And as I began to change, like I started doing different programs. I was building muscle, leaning out a little bit. And he would start to say things like, "You're starting to look like a man. Stop doing that." Or he would say things like, "I liked you better when you were heavier." And it started to play on me a little bit, where I just kind of like would shy back and maybe not like try to push myself to lift as heavy or whatever. And it would play over in my head that I can't do this.
When it was truly his own insecurities, right? Playing, yeah.
So he had and has a drinking problem, and that was something that I began to become very codependent on. And the woman that I had become during that time was not who I am today. I was very bitter. I was resentful. I was hateful. I was disrespectful. I spoke to him in a manner that I would never speak to anybody now. I degraded. I just picked him apart every time he came in, and was very confrontational about the drinking. And we became like this abusive, toxic relationship together. And there was infidelity, there was separation, get back together. The cycle just was continually spinning. I began seeking personal growth for myself because I did not like my way of being. I knew that there was something more for me. I continually had an unsettled, discontented feeling that there's something greater. I imagined like my marriage being a reflection of unconditional, true love and respect for yourself and your spouse. And it was totally not that. And I craved relationship. I craved being loved. And I just became so uncomfortable with the cycle. So I began a study by a Christian author named Lisa TerKeurst, and she wrote a book called It's Not Supposed to Be This Way. And I knew my life was not supposed to be this way. And so the title itself just grabbed me. And
I'm curious to know though, when you are in that cycle of toxicity in a relationship, when you think back, so you went into depression, isolation, and how did you pull yourself out of it? Like, what helped you? Was it what you just mentioned, you knowing that your life shouldn't be like that, that is more that you are about love, or was there something else that triggered it?
Well, I always give credit to what pulled me out of it was more of like a plucking out of the situation. I just had this discontent for where my life was, and I was miserable. And honestly, I hated myself. If I did not have my kids, I think my kids were what kept me grounded on this earth. And I just was in such a dark place that I needed a way out. So I began seeking this. I started reading this book. I began praying to God and just asking for help and strength and help me to like see through the fog. And in reading this book and Lisa's story of her own journey, I really stepped out of myself and I started seeing my way of being. And I started owning my part and understanding that I needed to change, or that I had to seek change for myself. And so I was ready to face me. And I approached my husband and I begged him, and he was extremely cold. He was on the ice fishing. And I always say, well, he was extremely cold, but not because he was on the ice. He was done, shut down. And I didn't know that he had been drinking at the time, but he was completely shut down. And I left because a week prior I had had a hysterectomy. So standing on the ice, I was freezing, also uncomfortable. And so I left and I was driving home, and I remember just my heart crying out to God and saying, if you need to shatter my marriage, and I will trust you the whole way. And 4 hours later, I was confronting my husband about a woman that he had been having an emotional affair with. And I was cornered in my kitchen, and I had his phone, and I threw his phone, and he headbutted me and broke my nose. And in that moment, there was a shattering of my marriage. And from that point on was the plucking out of the situation. And I now say that that broken nose was the greatest blessing to my life, because it catapulted me forward. I knew I couldn't go back. I knew I couldn't forgive that. I knew that if I did not get out, that I would be consumed and I would lose my life and my children would lose their life. So I went through that deep, like it pushed me right down. I had had a hysterectomy, so there was no working out, which is usually, if I get into a mental state where I'm stressed or I need clarity, or it will be a walk, it will be moving, it will be lifting, it will be something to help me shift my mindset. And so there was none of that. I was medically restricted. And I did something that I don't normally do, but I binged on pizza and I binged on cheeseburgers, and I didn't have it in me to cook for my children. So we were ordering out nonstop, and I gained weight. And I just kind of was like, I don't care. That's how I was in that state. And
you are trying to heal internally first instead of healing physically.
Yes. And the next morning after that incident, I was driving to a training because at the time I have been a hairstylist for 23 years, and I absolutely love my clients. I love talking to people and touching people, and I love sharing with them and listening to their stories. And I have a bond with my clients that there's some of them I'm so close with that they're just such blessings to me. And so in that state, I had nothing to give. And so I isolated myself, and I thought, I need to be away from people, but I still need to make money. And so I went and got a job delivering mail. And so I spent a good 6 months. I was working for the United States Postal Service for 1.5 years, but I spent a good 6 months of that time listening to YouTube videos about toxic relationships, about trauma bonding, about abuse. I was seeking out podcasts about like Al-Anon, and to really understand addiction and alcoholism and what it really does to a person. Codependency was another thing. I probably listened to 1 million podcasts or videos about codependency so I could understand my way of being and why. And I would walk with an earpiece in my ear and listen to these videos, and I would get out of my mail truck and I would turn it on, and I'd have all my mail, and I'd walk down the street and something would just like punch me in the gut. And I'm sure in the streets of Coldwater, Michigan, people were like, what is wrong with her? Crying. And then I would just, it was all I could do is just make it through that relay and then hop in my van or the mail truck, and then I would just cry. And
Do
I
you
would cry.
remember, sorry to interrupt you there. Do you remember any like main takeaways that really like was like a breakthrough about codependency or your way of being?
The main takeaway that I started listening to things about narcissism, and I feel like society today loosely uses the term narcissism. We all have narcissistic tendencies about us, and it really does take a clinical diagnosis to be, determined whether you are narcissistic or not. Now, his way of being had been gaslighting. It had been very narcissistic, abusive, but there were situations that had happened between us that were traumatic. And so what it did was bonded us together in that trauma. And so I never heard of the term trauma bonding. And so we bonded together based off of his trauma and my trauma. Yeah. And we brought it together to the table, and it became this recipe for disaster. And when I found out what trauma bonding actually was, I remember exactly where I was in that delivery route. I literally went, aha, like it clicked where I went. And by the way, as messed up as this is, he had broken my nose, and we were still physically bonded in a way that, like, we were separated. We were legally not even supposed to be in contact, and we would sneak to try to have sex. And now I'm like that. There was definitely, yes. And so that trauma bonding video that I had watched described the chemicals in your brain, the hormones that are released, that you legitimately in your brain become addicted. And when I listened to that, and then I listened to other ones all about trauma bonding, I was like, that is me. That is him. This is what we are. And
what we created.
Yeah. And the thing that it suggested was to have no physical contact, no touching, to not even allow yourself to be in the same space. To break that cycle, you had to cut off that person. I have a child with him. So that was...
And I do get that, because we have energy, right? We are made of energy. So when two people are in such close contact, we're mixing the energy, and we can see what's happening because it's all unconscious. And that just, you can't get out of it if you are still mixing the energies, right?
Right. And in this video, the author of it, she had talked about, and this is a psychologist, and so it was credible information. She had talked about how the chemicals in your brain actually create brain fog. And so even though I knew consciously, I could say, like, this is wrong and I shouldn't be doing this, and I'm just gonna get stuck again in the cycle, and I knew, and I could tell myself that, it was like subconsciously that fog would come over me. And then I would just go. And once I was leaving his house again, I would literally be like, Cindy, what are you doing? This is not okay. And then, I started listening to those, and I committed. And thank God, like, he designed me the way that he did, because he gave me the strength and commitment. And so when I make a commitment, it happens. And so I committed. It was October. And this breaking of my nose had happened in February. And so it was in October. I committed to no touching, no, he would always, and that was a way that he would always get me. If you know anything about love languages, my love language is physical touch, and quality time is like, they're the same. And so he would try to spend time with me, or he would try to use our daughter to come over. And he knew, he knew what he was doing. And so then he would try to hug me, or he would say things like, can I just stay? And I'd be like, no. And then this cave in the cycle. So when I listened to that trauma bonding, I committed. I will not allow him to step foot into my house. I will not allow myself to be in his presence. It will be like very limited contact. When we exchange our child, that changed. I just planned it all out to break the contact and break
that
the
takes
cycle.
strength.
Yes.
So I commend you for that.
So I committed 4 weeks, and I will see where like the fog is at in 4 weeks. And then in this video, it suggested 1 solid month, and then, you know, continue on with that. And so from October to November, I was like, I actually am not even attracted to him. Like, I literally
the fog went down.
it went away. And then I was like, here I have been thinking like, he is this handsome, you know, great guy. Like, I think I was just, it was what I was perceiving at the time. But once the fog was gone, I was like, he's not even my type. What have I been doing? Like, what? And so I sat down with him in December. So 2 months later, I sat down with him and I said, listen, I'm going to file for divorce. And he was like, you are? And I said, it's been a year and I think it's time.
Yeah.
And I said, I'm going to do this, and this is what is going to happen, and this is what we're going to agree on. And he just said, okay. You know, he just was like, and then I filed, and the divorce was final in August. In the meantime, I reconnected with an old friend of mine that was actually my first personal trainer, and was the first person to put a barbell in my hands and educate me on nutrition. And we had just had like a professional connection there, and we reconnected and became, you know, like best friends. And I absolutely adore him. And he shared with me about an emotional intelligence training that he went through. And something inside of me, which I now know is, I have this strong sense of intuition that I just didn't listen to for 41 years. And I looked it up and I said, I don't know how I'm going to afford this, but I need to start investing in me. It's time. And so I signed up for it, and I was supposed to go in August. I signed up for it in June, and I was supposed to go in August in person. It was in Columbus, Ohio. And then because of COVID, they still had everything shut down. And I got to go in November. So from June to November, the shift in my life began happening prior to me even going through these trainings. But I started having this again, like, I'm meant for more. There is more for me. And I have just been scared. I've been settling. I've been attaching myself to takers and not people that invest in me. But most importantly, like, I've got to get to the why I am allowing this for me.
Yeah.
And
the feeling of I am scared is actually not you, is your ego, right? And that's the distinction that you have to make.
Yeah. So I went through this first emotional training in November. And when I went into it, and the way that I showed up in there was not what you see here. Like, this would not have ever happened.
Yeah.
I was terrified to speak and use my voice unless it was standing behind a chair. That was my comfort zone. And so it was all on Zoom, and the group of people that I had, there was over 100 people in this training, and the trainers kind of just like shove you out into the open, like, okay, it's your turn, you know? And so I would
That's what you're here for.
yeah, and I would have to show up, you know, like, and then say whatever. But I was so afraid of what people would think of me that I wouldn't be authentic.
Yeah.
And some of the feedback about the way that I showed up was I was a scared little girl. I was playing small. I was a victim. I was a martyr. I was I was a perfectionist, meaning like I cared too much about what I looked like, so I wouldn't speak up, and I wasn't authentic. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Wow. I am the most authentic person you'll meet. Well, I was just kind of like, but everything that they were saying, when I really stepped back and looked at it, I was like, my entire life, I have played small. I have been scared. I've been afraid to use my voice. I've been afraid of what people will think of me. And I've been choosing people that would undervalue me to confirm this old running story that I felt about myself.
Yeah,
and I
because the mind needs that. The ego needs to get that confirmation. Oh yeah, I told you you're not enough. There is the proof. I told you you're not worth. Here's your proof.
Oh, and every single relationship that I had, I would sabotage it. Like when I look back now, I would do things like crazy girl things and sabotage the relationship, and then the guy would break up with me, and then I would be so devastated, and I would be like, nobody loves me, and I'm this and I'm that, and it was all these self-fulfilled prophecies. And now when I look back, I'm like, you know, my eyes are open to my way of being. And when I showed up in the training, and they were literally like holding up that mirror and saying like, this is how you're showing up, and I'm like, well, I can't hide anymore. And so I guess I get to face myself.
Yeah.
And so then I went to the second training. And when I came out of that training, I came out with a contract with myself. And I absolutely love it, because my contract is everything about me that has always been there, that I've just been afraid to share with the world and with myself and my children.
And embody it.
Yeah. And that is my, like, every single day, my way of being. And my contract with myself is I am a joyful, inspiring, impactful woman. And I was,
yes, thank you,
I know. And I had a transformation of like, in the training, it was so life-changing that I went into like a cocoon of darkness. And there were times where it was so difficult. I remember calling my friend that told me about this, and I called him on the first night and I said, I don't want to do this. And I was crying, and he said, Cindy, you were good going into this. What's coming up for you? Tell me. Yeah. And I just said, I am feeling this and this and this, and like, it's just so hard. I don't want to do this anymore, because I had all this comfort. Like I wore it around like this little cloak and a blanket of safety to say, you know, you're this and you're this. And we all know we're meant for more. We all know that we have a purpose. And sometimes that purpose just continually nags at us, and then we choose out. We choose other things. We choose a different route and choose a different way of being. But what is undealt with will always continue to surface.
Yeah.
So
and I do get that. And those are things society condition us for that, right? Society want us to stay small.
Right.
I feel like my sound is not very good here. Do you hear an echo?
Yes. It's crackling. properly. And it might be me because I'm not wearing an earpiece.
Yeah. Yeah. So society wants us to be like that.
Yes, I do feel like in society when, especially, you know, and it may be shifting more so as, you know, time goes on, but I feel like sometimes when women are powerful and women are speaking, that certain types of men don't appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
And at least the men that I surrounded myself with, that was always the case. My first husband would always tell me, you know, the old saying, like, children are to be seen and not heard. And because he was so much older than me, he would say things like, you know, you're prettier when you just sit there. And I'd be like, okay. And just constantly telling, I remember one time we were at a family gathering or whatever, and I was like, and then he was like, you're really annoying. And I'm like, okay. You know, and then there was another time that I was making, Tybo used to have this web club, and I was making a username for the first time that I got onto it. And I was like, what is a good name for me? And he just instantly shot off Princess Glue. And I went, okay, what's that mean? And he said, well, you act like a princess and you're always stuck to me like glue. And I just thought, well, you know, I wanted to, quality time is one of my love languages. I would always want to have conversation and talk, and he would shut it down. And we lived 2 separate lives. So
This reminds me of the book, The 4 Agreements. And what the author is talking about is when somebody gives you feedback like that, really they're talking about themselves. But what happens is that we agree to that. So that's why we get hurt, right? So that was about him. It wasn't about you. But you took it personally because somewhere you were in agreement with him.
Mm-hmm. And I know exactly where that was, because as a child, that's why when I created my contract and I came up with I am a joyful is the first word that I came up with, because when I was a child, I was, you know, my birth order is I'm the baby of the family. I'm the youngest of 5. And I was always, which I still am in my family, that's my most comfortable setting around my family, is I'm always like, I'm here, you know, here I am. And so that was always my personality. But the longer I was with men that did not appreciate that, I would agree with that. I would shut myself down. And now I'm like, never again will I shut myself down. And I have an agreement with myself now that I do not get to let myself down. I don't get to, nobody gets to shut me down, and I don't even get to or stop me from doing the things that I want to do, not even myself. So I don't, if I come up with a big plan and a big goal, and I know that this is the direction that I need to go, nobody gets to tell me no, not even me.
So we often hear the quote, we don't get in life what we think we are, but what we negotiate. What do you negotiate with yourself to get better at life?
I would say I negotiate with myself permission to go and permission to rest, and really be in touch with my why. So I just competed in my first figure and physique competition on Saturday.
Yes. Amazing.
And it is. I should have staged my girls all around me. That's what they're being called now, is my trophies. They're my girls. And so when I was in my teaching my Tybo phase, and my friend Rob had been my personal trainer at the time, he had, he told me, you could be in a competition. You could do like a bikini competition or something like that. And I was like, no, I couldn't. Like, you know, I was raised very strict Christian girl, and I was like, there's no way I could be on stage in a bikini and show that much skin. Like, you know, what would people think about me? And, you know, but when he said that, he planted this seed of like confidence, like interest,
Possibilities.
and possibilities, and like telling me that of what I'm capable of. And I was like, for years, I thought, I wonder, I would go on the internet and I would look at it, and then I would put it to the side, and then after my divorce was final in August, I come across on Instagram a Transform You challenge by Ashley Horner, and the grand prize was $5,000. And I was like, you know what do I got to lose? I'm going to work out anyways. But I could get really serious about my fitness. And I was just kind of eating like a jerk, you know, like I was like, I would train and then I would eat whatever, you know, and I just was in a comfort zone, and I thought, this is going to help me. And I knew that I had my emotional intelligence trainings coming up, and I'm like, I think this will set the stage for something, you know. We were knee deep in the pandemic, and I was like, you know, I had done some programs in my basement, and gyms had just opened, and I'm like, it's time. Like, it's time for me to get serious and like shift into gear of, you know, being like a major badass with fitness, you know. So
and you are. I really commend you for that. But tell us, what was it like to go through the rigor of the training and the mindset to prepare for the competition that you did before and won the first prize, and the one that you just did?
Well, the first one was 10 weeks. It was a 10-week challenge, and it really set the stage for this competition. I trained intensely for the first 10 weeks. I lost 11 pounds. I was only 142 pounds to start with. So my fitness level and my physique and everything was, it was still good, you know, like I still looked fit. But when I came out of that first challenge, I had had a significant body transformation that I won. And what I had to do in that timing was push like my social life away. I had to push, you know, I had to be very, very rigid with my eating. I set the goal of like, I want to lose 10 pounds. I think that that's where you'll be able to see a transformation. And so, which I was correct, you know, you could see a transformation. But then once I won that, I was talking to Rob again, and I said, I think, and I said, I think, because I was scared and there was self-doubt that I was, you know, that I could. I said, I think we were Christmas shopping in Toledo, and I said, I think I want to do a competition. Like, I think I want to do it. I think I want to go for it. You know, I was just kind of like, eh. And we happened to have just got done eating at this restaurant, and he was like, actually, right across the street is my friend Jimmy's gym. And I'm like, Jimmy has a gym? Okay. Yeah, it's right here. It's Ironworks Gym. And my friend Jimmy Mamadi, I always botch his name, owns it. And he's like, do you want me to connect you with them? And I said, yeah. Well, we were headed over to get gas, and the gas station's right in front of the gym. And so it takes me like right by it. And I'm like, I don't know, you know. But then I said, yes, ask him if he's willing to train me, and then let's see, you know. Yeah. So with the $5,000 that I won, I took my kids to Disney, which was a dream thing for us.
Oh,
and
wow.
So it was so fun. Right after, and thankfully my sister helped me along with that. So I came back from going to Florida, and then I met with Jimmy the first time, and he was just such a great person, and he was a phenomenal coach and trainer through the entire thing. And we became best friends. And then during the journey, Rob decided to do the competition with me. And so we were able to really have this shared experience and just help each other with meal prepping and planning. And so it normally becomes like a very lonely journey when you're doing something big like that. You have to stay committed. You have to stay disciplined. You know, and so social lives and things like that get set to the side. And so like I would prep my meals and go over to his house, and then we would have our own separate meals, but we supported each other in that. And then on Saturday, we both stepped on stage for the very first time, and we both took home first place trophies. And
amazing.
And so it's definitely a mindset. It is physical and mentally challenging. You have to have a support system around you, and people that support you. Like that's what helps you get like that last mile. Because by the way, my last mile, I ended up getting COVID, and I was just extremely exhausted. I couldn't train, and so then the mind's playing tricks on you. And honestly, I don't think if it was for Rob and Jimmy that I would have really like shifted out of this mindset that I started going backwards to Cindy 2 years ago, Cindy 2.5 years ago, where I was like, I described it as I felt like an anchor went around my neck and just dropped me into a pool of darkness, because I started all this self-doubt and telling myself stories, you know, and it just started replaying. And they both kept speaking just words of encouragement and life. And, you know, and even like a couple times, both of them were like, you've got to stop it, you know. And so
get out of your act, right? Step out of it.
So I ended up standing in front of the mirror one day, and I looked myself in the eyes and I said, stop it. And then I just thought about my best friend and what I would say to her if she was feeling this way. Since I am my best friend, I said, Cindy, I love you. I'm proud of you. You're doing a great job. You are an overcomer. Look at all that you have done behind you. You carry these 3 kids by yourself, and you do it with grace, and you do it with joy. And then I went, I am a joyful, inspiring, impactful woman. I am a butterfly. I came out of that cocoon, and I am spreading my wings, and I am loving my life. And I was like, you get to feel these feelings. You get to remember the darkness, and you get to get out of it, because you are light, and you love, and you can continue to love yourself. And then I said, because I was telling myself I'm alone, I have no one that cares, but you know, I had support that, you know, these guys were caring, and my sister reaching out to me, and some of my clients reaching out to me, and you know, and so in that darkness, I just wasn't seeing it. But then, you know, then it was a couple days worth of it, and I stood in the mirror and I just said, I'm proud of you. I love you. And I said, you are not alone. And I literally was like, and so I just, you know, I ended up calling Rob and saying thank you. And I called Jimmy and I said thank you for that, for loving me like that. You know, like when people invest in you like that and love you and care.
Seeing your potential.
Yes. And so it's been a phenomenal journey up until this point. I sat outside this morning, and sitting with gratitude, I just put some earbuds in and I listened to I Am Light by Indy Ari, because that's my song. And
it's beautiful. Yeah.
And I sat back and I opened up my hands and I closed my eyes, and I just started going over my gratitude. And I started just telling God, like, I am just so grateful. I'm so grateful for where you've led me. I'm grateful for the strength. I'm grateful for the way that you have created me. I am grateful for the energy. I'm grateful for the gifts in my life. I'm so grateful for my children that have kept me anchored. they have been my why. They are why I continually push for better and better and better. And it's not that I don't ever think like there's nothing that's ever good enough. My second husband used to recite that. You always think nothing's ever good enough. And I'd be like, but if we can do better, and grow, then I'm going to seek that. And so and I was just thankful. I was telling God this morning, I'm so thankful and grateful that I was given that gift to continually seek growing, because it doesn't ever end. Your age, I'm 42, and 42-year-old me is 1000% better than 32-year-old me. And 32-year-old me was better than 22-year-old me, And so I am excited to meet 52-year-old me, It's just it's literally just a mark on the calendar. And I just continually am seeking my best self. And that is literally how you win at life. That's how you win at everything.
Exactly. And walk us through your relationship with your children. How did you reconnect through this time to have like a better relationship, stronger relationship with them?
I would say that I was kind of a extremely angry mom. Like, I was a yeller, and I was very irritable, and I would kind of just like push them off. I would just be like, go, like, I can't handle this, go. And so my relationship with my oldest daughter really started to deteriorate. We've always had a very, very strong bond. Like, she really is my best friend. And she became very depressed, and she went through like a rebellious state. And that was literally on the brink of me going through the first emotional intelligence training. It was very rough. She was like, I don't like you. I don't want to be around you. I can't stand how you talk to me. And I was just like, what? I'm the parent, And so, but then she would say, if people say something enough times, pay attention. That might be how you're showing up with people.
Yeah, without realizing it.
Without realizing it. And I did not realize it. And I was so here with all of my things. And little side note, I just saw how like I still have some of that orangey spray tan on me from Saturday. But there was like definitely some disconnect there with her. And then which that hadn't ever been the case. And then my son was he had taken on a role that was just completely unnecessary. It's like really hot in here, so I keep trying to get my hair.
Sorry.
My son he took on a role of like, he's the man of the house. He's the only man here. And so he kind of like stepped up to like the spousal role. And then I realized that what he was doing. And I realized
taking responsibilities that he doesn't need to take on.
Right. And I realized how just how I had been talking to him was very, very much like how I had been talking to my husband. And then my youngest child, like I was extreme babying because I was so guilty. Like, I felt guilty. I carried around this guilt with me of like, what am I doing to my kids? And I went through these trainings, and I literally sat my children down, and I had like a confession. And I said, this is how I was. And this is what I've learned about myself. And in tears, I said, parents, like, it's okay to be human in front of your children and show them that you are actually a human being with feelings too. And that you make mistakes, and mistakes can be fixed and changed, and, you can grow from those mistakes. But I sat and I just said, I'm sorry, please forgive me.
Yeah.
And we cried, and we shifted. And the yelling mom I mean, I can't say that it's non-existent because I have an 18-year-old and an almost 17-year-old and a 5-year-old. So there are times where the voice raises, but the way I parent now is completely different. Like, we will have a conversation over me yelling and saying, no, you're doing this and you're doing that. And I will talk to them because they're human beings. I talk to them with that respect. And there is a new level of respect. We're still working on that with my son, more so because he had patterned himself. But one day it dawned on me and I was like, you know what? I get to give him some freedom. Mm-hmm. I said to him, I said, son, I don't know if you think you need to be my husband. I don't know if you think that you need to take the man of the house role, but you are 16 years old. You don't get that role right now. So you get to take that off of your shoulders and you get to be a 16-year-old young man.
Yeah, exactly.
And physically, I watched him, like, because he's all like yelling at me. And I said that he physically let that release, like, okay. And his way of being is continually shifting. So, you know, openness and honesty and communication, like, that is the breath of life to every relationship. And me taking that, being vulnerable and owning my part. And I tell him, I'm like, I'm on the job training, you know, please tell me if I'm showing up in a certain way. I allow my kids to tell me that in a respectful way. Like, you are showing up like this. And it helps. It really does. Because you don't know what you don't know, you know?
Yeah.
So
you don't know what you don't know exactly.
So it helps. And my daughter, like, my oldest daughter, she had to be on antidepressants for a moment. No, not right now, please. Thank you. And so she's no longer on antidepressants. Like, there's just we sat and we talked, and I did some of the things that I learned. I used some of the tools from the emotional intelligence training of allowing her to release some of these things. I asked her to go back to a certain moment in time when she picked up responsibility for me, because she had been acting like she was responsible for me. And I addressed it. I apologized about it. And then I asked her to just open her hands and release it and tell it, you get to go back where you came from. Because she was owning that, like, responsibility for me. And so, you know, and that was such a healing moment for both of us to just let it go. Like, we both let it go. And I said to her, you know, from this point on, you're no longer responsible for anybody but you know? So there has been a major shift and change in my home, my children, our relationships, our bonds, and just my way of being now. I just had a client tell me not too long ago that people tell me now that they see the change and the difference. And I had this client and he said, you know, Cindy, I only see you about 15, 20 minutes every 2 months. And I used to tell my wife when I would leave, I would say, man, the girl is so sweet. She is a storm. Every single time I see her, she is in a storm or has a storm swirling around her. And he said, and you know what? Every time I've seen you since, he goes, I'm going to say like November on.
Something happened.
He said, you've been calm. You've been at peace. And I can tell you're genuinely happy. And I said, well, let me tell you what the change was, you know? And I said, it was forgiveness and it was love for myself. And that is, you know, and I will never accept any less out of me or anyone else. So that's
oh my gosh, that's so beautiful. How do we tap into our unique gifts and power for someone who wants to do that? What advice would you have?
meditation is definitely a key to tapping into your unique gifts and your power. And that is definitely something that sitting in a quiet space and shutting your mind down and reflecting on your gifts and owning them. Not allowing yourself to talk yourself out of how powerful you really are.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how I tap into my unique gifts, and then continually walking in them, and definitely not shying away.
So beautiful. Now, if you had your 30 years old self in front of you, what wisdom would you tell your younger self today?
I have had conversations with my younger self. And I first of all have apologized to her. And I have told her it's okay to trust your gut. It's okay to trust your intuition. And you do not have to do what society tells you to do. If being a wife is not your thing, you don't have to do it.
Yeah.
And if being, as a perfect little church girl is not the thing, then you don't have to. I would give my 30-year-old self permission to be herself and to love herself. That's what I was missing back then.
That's so beautiful. Yes, I do love that. And I think we need to be more mindful the way we talk about ourselves, and be conscious, right? Be conscious about the limited beliefs, be conscious about exactly what are we picking up, what are we agreeing with what we hear around us. My next question is, how does someone who is in an abusive relationship start to get themselves out of it, and find new possibilities in life? Because myself, I was in a toxic relationship, and I remember, same like you, depression, isolation, didn't want to talk to anybody, couldn't find myself talking to anybody. I was like my secret. And when you're like so down in that dark place, what is it that pulled you out, or how do you start getting yourself out of it? What was your experience?
The biggest thing is to understand that it's not your fault, and of the abuse. We often guilt ourselves and tell ourselves that it's our fault, and that if we wouldn't have done this, then he wouldn't have done that. And if I wouldn't have said this, then he wouldn't have said that. But a person that genuinely loves themselves first and loves you, they would never speak to you in an abusive way, let alone lay a hand on you. So understanding that it is not your fault. And the next biggest thing is there's no amount of loving a person enough that will get them to change. There's no amount of telling yourself that if you just behave this way or you just do this, that they will love you more. They are not going to change. And so accepting that is one of the biggest steps towards getting out. And then tell people, use your voice and tell people.
Yeah.
Don't be ashamed to use your voice.
I think that's the biggest thing, is we isolate because we feel shame, we feel guilt, but actually we need to do those other things around, not isolate and seek for help or support. That's beautiful. Well, from my experience, meditation has been my way out. Breathing, visualizing, believing in a better vision, and I want to invite you and all the people, the audience listening today, and everybody who will be listening to the recording later on, to actually join us for a short guided meditation. So I've muted you so there's no echo in the background. And so right now, wherever you are, for everybody listening, whatever you're doing, just take a moment for this meditation. And if you're driving, don't close your eyes. You can always come back to this later. So let's sit comfortably in an upright position with your back straight, or you can choose to lie down with your left hand onto your belly, right hand onto your heart, or you can bring both of your hands over your heart. And the key here is just to be relaxed and find comfort. So go ahead and settle down. If your eyes are not closed, just please close your eyes and bring your awareness to your breath. Take a deep breath, fully in. Squeeze all the muscles in your body, hold, and let go with a sigh of good feelings as you become more and more relaxed. Take another deep breath in. Hold, squeeze, and again, just let go of all the tension on your exhale. Just become more and more relaxed. That's right. So at this time, we'll start with a 3 to 1 count. Take a deep breath in, and as you exhale, I want you to see and mentally repeat with me the number 3 times, and diminish the mental sound of the number each time. 3, 3, 3. Take another deep breath, and as you exhale, mentally repeat and visualize the number 2 3 times. 2, 2, 2. That's it. Take another deep breath, and as you exhale, mentally repeat and visualize the number 1 3 times. 1, 1, 1. Relax. Feel your center. Let yourself fully arrive into the room, arrive into your body, connect to your heart. Physically feel your heart. Breathe deep into it. Feel the energy of your heart, the healing power, the strength, perhaps its colors, texture, form. And from this place, allow yourself to sink deep into your heart's biggest dreams. Take a moment to visualize your life 1 year from now. It's 1 year later. Imagine the life you are living. You have accomplished all the goals that you set for yourself in all categories of your life, whether it's love, family, health, finance, spirituality, or career. Breathe deep. See what you see. Feel what you feel. Hear what you hear. Perhaps you can feel the joy, happiness, freedom. Perhaps you feel the feelings and experience that you always wanted to. That one thing that you've been searching for. Step into that moment. You are there. Experience it. Your 1 year vision, your vision for your life, your vision for your world is now reality. Perhaps your goal was to lose weight and you see yourself step on the scale at the gym and you have hit your goal. Perhaps you have achieved the family relationship that you wanted and you see your family connected, united at the dinner table. Perhaps your dream was to meet your soulmate, the woman or man that you thought was unavailable. You are now together with your soulmate, holding hands, laughing, enjoying each other. Perhaps your goal was to have your business finally hit that profit number and you're just checking in with your accountant, celebrate the milestone you exceeded. You manifested all your goals with your faith and trust. Go through the entire day, see yourself celebrating 1 year from today. Who is there with you? Who is not there with you? In your mind's eye, how does it sound? How does it look like? What does it feel? Suddenly, you look in front of you and you see that one person who means the world to you, walking towards you with your open arms to celebrate all your accomplishments. See what you see. Feel what you feel. Hear what you hear. Celebrating love, family, health, finances, career, spirituality. A life you have always dreamed of is now reality. Breathe as you are there. Breathe into your mind, into your body, into your soul. Stay with your breath. Now reflect back at the last year. What were the limiting beliefs that you gave up to accomplish this? What did you heal? What small actions you needed to take? What massive actions you needed to commit to? Breathe. What did you strengthen that is already great inside of you? Take a moment and strengthen within love, appreciation for life, intelligence, compassion, courage. Strengthen it. Feel a sensation of liberation inside, like the healing, the solutions, the strengthening, the actions you needed are here right now within you. It was always there. You just needed to remind yourself. That's it. You even created a mantra to bless your mind, body, and soul. And so, repeat silently in your mind. The universe has my back. Every day, my life is getting better and better. In a moment, I will count from 1 to 5. With each number, you will gradually come out of your meditative state. At the count of 5, you will open your eyes, ready for your day, feeling blissful and energized. 1. Bring your awareness back into the space. 2. Amplify your receptivity to the present moment. 3. Truly surrender into what is. 4. Expand into abundance with total ease and total grace. 5. Eyes open, wide awake, feeling blissful and energized. Grounding down, all work done. And so it is. So I'd like to invite the audience who is listening today to take a moment after you have completed this meditation to journal. Journal, what did you experience? What did you see, hear, feel? And perhaps, Cindy, you can share your own vision 1 year from now.
My vision is filled with hope for a relationship that will reflect this journey so far of unconditional love and respect. And so I continually set in a vision of that man, that partner that I will adore and he will adore me as well. And we will both share same passion, similar passion for self-improvement and helping others heal through broken relationships. And it feels so good to envision that. I always have that vision of him kissing me on my forehead, because that is so gentle and precious and caring and it's something that I long for,
Mm-hmm.
and I will have it.
Yes, you're gonna manifest that.
Yes.
That's beautiful. Anything else you experienced through this meditation you want to share?
The other year from now is completing a few other competitions that are set. I have another one next weekend, and then another one October 2nd. That will wrap up 2021, and then I'm going to accumulate a plan for 2022 for my competitions. But I am envisioning myself working towards becoming a pro. That is, I got my sights locked in on that.
Amazing. Wow, I'm so proud of you, Cindy. That's beautiful. All right, let's close it up with rapid fire questions, the favorite of our audience here. So I'll just go through a set of questions. You don't have to go into too much details, really whatever comes to mind, okay? So who is counting on you today to be at your best?
Me.
I love that. I have the same answer. What are you prioritizing every day?
My health all the way around, mentally, physically, spiritually, my health.
Awesome. How do you manage your time?
I live off of a schedule for my work, and then I have a mental schedule. Daily, I wake up at this time, and I have this amount of time and this amount of time. So work schedule is always on an app on my phone, and I check that multiple times a day. But then the rest of my schedule is up here, and I have it planned out. I'm a planner and a scheduler when it comes to my day.
Wow. I see a controller and a promoter.
I am a promoter for sure, but in the matrix, I scored equally in all the other quadrants.
Wow. Amazing. Okay. How do you manage your energy?
Resting and listening to my body when I don't like to miss the party. So I'm like that child that likes to get up early and go to bed late. So my body lets me know when it's had enough. And so resting is my key.
I love it. What possibilities do you stand for yourself in the world?
What possibilities? Say again.
Do you stand for yourself in the world?
Do I stand for myself in the world? They are endless. I'm the possibility of getting out of a small town and branching out into a big city, the possibility of owning my own gym someday with a little hair salon, the possibility of me creating a nonprofit organization for single mothers. That is my heart of hearts, is wanting to help single moms or moms that have their husbands deployed and so they're actively a single parent. I futuristically really want to serve single moms. And so that possibility, the possibility of helping women become madly in love with themselves and graceful, and if they're a wife, to be the wife that no man will ever want to lose. and just really heal from the traumas in the past and fall madly in love with your own soul.
Wow, so inspirational. I'm sold. I'm with you with that non-for-profit. Call me when you get that started. You talked about your favorite book, but what is your favorite and most inspirational podcast?
I love Les Brown, and And I love listening to, it's called Above Inspirations, I think. They take a compilation of like preaching messages, and they put them together in a topic, and I listen to those every single morning. It's my church. Every single morning I set my mind. So I listen to those on YouTube usually. And then my next go-to podcast is my friend Janice. She has a podcast called Just Janice, and she just shares, like, she's such a joyful person, and so she just shares like her love for God, and it's a little like boost of spiritual food. And then a mindset one. So I'm giving you like 3. My mindset one, that I really like, I love anything by Chris Lee or Lewis Howes. Those guys tend to work together
The School of
occasionally.
Greatness.
Yes, The School of Greatness. And Jay Shetty, freaking love him.
So many out there, yes, for sure. Any final closing words from you, Cindy? Do you have anything that haven't been said that you want to share?
I would just like to share my gratefulness with you. And when I met you, I was actually doing some coaching in a training that you went through, and the energy and light that you bring to any group that you are a part of is, it's magnetic, and it is enlightening, and you carry yourself with such a poise and grace and dignity and respect. And I just wanted you to know that I admire you, and I honor you, and I acknowledge you for the gifts and the talents, and just let you know that I'm so grateful for this opportunity with you. My daughter.
Looks like she wants to play. I don't know if we've lost you, Cindy. The computer froze. Can you hear? All right, it looks like Cindy froze, but we were coming to an end. Cindy, if you can hear me, oh, maybe she's gonna come back. We'll just wait. Just a couple of minutes. Maybe her internet connection is not working, but in the meantime, I want to share with you guys the next Go With The Flow, number 11, will be with my dear friend Michael Moscatello on June 10, 2011 at 7 p.m. Don't miss it. He's gonna talk about life can be good when you remove the if. So it's gonna be a powerful podcast, and Cindy gave you a couple of podcasts. Now you have another one. Go with the flow. Share with your friends. I can't wait to see you. At the next Go with the Flow. And I'm so thrilled you were here with Cindy. Maybe she's coming back. Let's see. Yes, she's back.
It's a little bit of patience technology here.
Yes, it's okay. It's all good. We were about the closing words. I was taking all in, and then you just disappeared.
I know. I was saying that I wanted to acknowledge you and honor you, and just tell you how grateful I am for you, that I believe it was like the second day that we met, you reached out to me and asked me to do this. And so I'm extremely grateful for you are a very tenacious woman, and I admire that. And you carry yourself with just such a strength and dignity. And it's been exciting to get to know you and watch you grow, and to hear your visions. And I feel very blessed to know you. And
Thank
so I
you.
just wanted to acknowledge that.
If I was in your program at the same time that you did, I would be a butterfly too.
Yeah.
But I get to be Madonna. Yeah, I get to shatter the glass ceiling, and she's such a powerful woman. So I still have lots to learn, that's for sure. And the sky is not the limit. So, I want to take this moment to acknowledge you, Cindy. Like, you move me, you inspire me so much, like by all you went through, all you accomplishing, and just seeing like how many goals you have, and ready to go for everything that you dream for. Your life vision to help women see their true self and fall madly in love with themselves is just so inspiring. And I hope that everybody who was here today listening is just gonna pass on this podcast and get women being inspired and find their love and look at the mirror just like you did. And just like David Goggins too says it, this is your accountability mirror. There's nowhere to hide. It's you and you and your eyes. And you are so strong and beautiful and passionate and have so much love. I'm just so happy that you get to share that gift with us today, and more on your journey. So thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right. So you know what time it is. It is time to go and create new possibilities for your life. And Cindy and myself will see you next time. Bye, guys.
Bye.